नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, राम राम, सा खमागणी, वणक्कम, प्रणाम। आप सभी का ऑल्टरनेट मीडिया में फिर से स्वागत है। मैं आपकी होस्ट गायत्री देवी। हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए रामी निरंजन देसाई मैम। रामी निरंजन देसाई मैम की साउथ और साउथ ईस्ट एशिया पे बहुत जबरदस्त पकड़ है। शी हैज डन हर स्टडीज बेसिकली अराउंड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जोन्स, और जो कि साउथ ईस्ट एशिया पे ट्राइबल एरियाज, lot of other geopolitical convergences which are happening in this area particularly. मैम इस इंडिया फाउंडेशन की काफी प्रोमिनेंट मेंबर हैं, और शी contributes to a lot of her writings and research articles. Rami ma'am, a very warm welcome on the show.
Thank you very much, Gayatri. It's good to be back.
जी मैम। मैम, व्हाई इज द एंटायर बे ऑफ बंगाल, अभी पूरा बे ऑफ बंगाल पे सबकी नजर क्यों आ गई? और मैं सिर्फ आई एम नॉट जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट अमेरिका, क्योंकि वो यूएस का तो हर जगह इंटरेस्ट रहता है, बट ऑल्सो रशिया, ऑल्सो इजराइल, एवरीबडी इज रशिंग इन दिस एरिया। और अभी द टॉक ऑफ द टाउन इज द अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड्स। जी
Gayatri, I think बे ऑफ बंगाल पहले से काफी इम्पोर्टेंट रहा है। मतलब अब हमारे न्यूज मीडिया में निकल रहा है, अब हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं क्योंकि बांग्लादेश में पॉलिटिकल चेंज हुआ है, या तो ड्यूरिंग द रिजीम चेंज जो बांग्लादेश में हुआ था उस टाइम पे सेंट मार्टिन्स आइलैंड के बारे में बड़ी बातें हुई थी। बट द बे हैज हिस्टोरिकली बीन इम्पोर्टेंट। You will notice in history also that there was naval presence, warships, American warships that had come right up to the Bay of Bengal in an attempt to posture towards India. वो बहुत पुरानी बात है, मगर the fact of the matter is कि जहाँ जहाँ चाइना का इन्फ्लुएंस बढ़ता रहेगा वहाँ वहाँ दूसरे देशों का भी इंटरेस्ट बढ़ेगा। हमने देखा है म्यांमार के थ्रू चॉपफू पोर्ट बना है, which brings China, it gives China a foothold in the Bay of Bengal, and एक firm foothold देता है चॉपफू पोर्ट के थ्रू। हमने देखा है कि शेख हसीना के आउस्टर के पहले सेंट मार्टिन्स आइलैंड की बड़ी बातें हुई थी, और ऐसा कहा गया था कि यूएस को बहुत इंटरेस्ट है क्योंकि यूएस भी एक बेस चाहता है। यूएस के दुनिया भर में हजारों नेवल बेसिस हैं, बे ऑफ बंगाल में नहीं है, तो सेंट मार्टिन्स आइलैंड उनके लिए बहुत एक इम्पॉर्टेंट बेस बन सकता है। हमने ये भी सुना था कि कोको आइलैंड्स, और ये सुनने की बात नहीं है, ये डिबेट करने की बात नहीं है, मगर एक आई थिंक अब स्टेटेड फैक्ट है कि कोको आइलैंड्स जो 55 किलोमीटर दूर है अंडमान और निकोबार आइलैंड से, वहाँ इवन दो वो म्यांमार का एक हिस्सा है, मगर वहाँ चाइनीज इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर काफ़ी बना है इन टर्म्स ऑफ द एयर स्ट्रिप बीइंग इंक्रीज्ड, इन टर्म्स ऑफ वॉच टावर्स, सर्वेलेंस टावर्स। तो ये सब देखते हुए ये एक ऑब्वियस सी बात हो जाती है कि बे ऑफ बंगाल में काफी सारे जियोपॉलिटिकल कॉन्टेस्टेशंस हो रहे हैं। अभी पीक नहीं किया है, बट आगे आते आगे के समय में ऐसा लग रहा है कि दिस इज गोइंग टू बिकम अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एरिया फॉर जियोपॉलिटिकल कॉन्टेस्टेशंस। अब जब हम ग्रेट निकोबार प्रोजेक्ट की बात करते हैं जो अंडमान निकोबार आइलैंड में बनने जा रहा है, और उसको नेशनल ग्रीन ट्राइब्यूनल का भी क्लियरेंस मिला है, उसमें ज्यादातर टू वेज से देखा जा सकता है। एक तो जो पॉलिटिकल ऑपोजिशन इंडिया में ही हो रहा है ग्रेट निकोबार प्रोजेक्ट का ऑपोजिशन, एंड काफी लोग उसके सपोर्ट में हैं बिकॉज दे सी द स्ट्रेटेजिक वैल्यू टू इट, मगर जो ऑपोजिशन है वो स्ट्रेटेजिक वैल्यू ना देखते हुए एक इकोलॉजिकल पिवट पे अपोज कर रहा है प्रोजेक्ट को, कह रहा है कि इन्वायरमेंटल डैमेज होएगा, which is a very narrow way of looking at it, because environmental जितने भी concerns है वो NGT ने क्लियर कर चुके हैं। NGT बोल चुका है, 6 बेंच पैनल था, सीनियर पैनल था, वो बोल चुके हैं कि project is a necessity but it has to go hand in hand with ecological concerns, and उसके एक पैरामीटर्स दिए गए हैं जिसके थ्रू any sort of development will have to be balanced with environmental concerns. चाहे वो coral reefs हो, चाहे वो reforestation हो, ये सब the government will have to keep in mind while going ahead with the project, which has great strategic value to India. Now, the reason I say great strategic value is because I've already mentioned to you कि एक कोको आइलैंड्स जो आपके 55 किलोमीटर दूर है, अगर वहाँ एक प्रेजेंस दिखाई दे रहा है चाइना का, and I'm not saying that India and China at some point, cannot have common foundations as well. Of course, India and China can also have common foundations. मगर जब एक एक्सेस बनाया जा रहा है तो इंडिया के legitimate concerns होते हैं to also fortify itself. उसको you cannot ignore India's concerns as illegitimate concerns. जब हम देख रहे हैं कि एक बड़ा देश जिसका एक एक्सपेंशनिस्ट एजेंडा कहा जा रहा है, आपके एक नेबरहुड में आ चुका है जहां उनका कभी एक फुटहोल्ड नहीं था, तो ये legitimate concerns इंडिया का होना is I think a strategic necessity, and that is what India is doing. गालाथिया बे में एक ट्रांसशिपमेंट पोर्ट होने वाला है जो ट्रेड के लिए it's going to be very important. maritime trade के लिए इंडिया के लिए it's going to be very important. revenue generate करने वाला है, and it's going to give India a strong economic foothold in the Bay of Bengal. Number two, there's going to be an international airport. There's going to be, development in terms of construction for residences, so on and so forth. So these are going to create an area for India that has been largely ignored for many, many decades. It's going to create an area that's going to become a hub. And that itself becomes a strategic pivot for us. Obviously, with changes in the political dispensation in Bangladesh, again, it becomes very important for us to have presence in the Bay of Bengal. Last point I will say is that we must not forget the undersea cables in the Bay of Bengal. World's 70% of information travels through these undersea cables. The convergence is in the Bay of Bengal. Any sort of international external influence on the Bay of Bengal can very well have an impact on the information that is traveling through these undersea cables. So India ka presence Bay of Bengal mein hona is by far the most important strategic move that we have seen. This is not a developmental move. This is a strategic move. National security has never been a strong point for the opposition, even when they were in power, unfortunately so. उनका एक तरीका होता था कि let us ignore these areas. नॉर्थ ईस्ट में भी यही हुआ था, चाइना को लेके जितने मूव्स किए थे उसमें भी यही हुआ था कि let's keep things underdeveloped. अगर चीजें underdeveloped हैं, अगर चीजों एरियाज को, लोकेशंस को, ज्योग्राफीज को, लोगों को अगर हम इग्नोर करें तो ये हमारे लिए एक strategic move है. No movement is a strategic movement was their idea कि अगर हम interested नहीं है और हम geographies को difficult रखें तो कोई और भी नहीं आएगा वहाँ. This was the foundation of what they considered was strategic moves. This government thinks very differently. It believes in asserting its claim, asserting its power, asserting territorial integrity, and therefore it believes in forward movement. And यही हम देख रहे हैं अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड्स में कि ये बहुत front-footed strategic moves this government is playing, and the opposition unfortunately is tied up in its own politics, and वो ही कर रही है जो वो usually करती है, हर चीज को oppose करती है. However, I think नेशनल सिक्योरिटी का जो लेंस है वो बिल्कुल इग्नोर कर रही है. या तो वो नहीं समझ पाते हैं या तो वो पर्पसली इग्नोर करते हैं. ईदर वे, अगर वो नहीं समझ पाते हैं या तो पर्पसली इग्नोर कर रहे हैं, चाहे कोई भी सिचुएशन हो, अगर यही उनका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है तो उनको गवर्नमेंट में बिल्कुल नहीं होना चाहिए.
Manipur has become hot again. It was quiet and it was silent for some time. I think there were at least 3 to 4 months period where there was a lot of peace and tranquility. फिर से वापस में आ गया है. ये क्यों हो रहा है और कौन करवा रहा है?
Look, ऐसा नहीं होता है कि किसी को करवाने की जरूरत होती है. When you have the kind of arms, the kind of weapons that are in Manipur, the kind of ethnic armed organizations, the kind of that are, across the border as well, the kind of community support to a lot of these groups, local community support, it becomes very difficult for security forces to do their job properly. आप heavy handed भी नहीं हो सकते हो. At the end of the day, आपके ही these are civilians, these are people of your own country. The security forces cannot go full ad hoc on them. There is a danger of alienating them. Also, you must have noticed कि पिछले ही हफ्ते एक कैश मिला था weapons का.
Cache of weapons and huge.
So, उसमें जो था आपने देखा होगा कि anti-drone they have anti-drone systems as well, which are so advanced that most militaries in the world wouldn't have it. So you have to understand this far deeply than what meets the eye. Everything is not a conspiracy. If you look at the larger picture of it, Myanmar is going through its own conflict. Ethnic armed organizations are very well equipped. सबसे बड़ा दुनिया में नारकोटिक्स का हब म्यांमार बन चुका है. That narcotics gets them a lot of money. अगर आप बहुत conservative estimates भी देखो, it goes into hundreds of billions of dollars. Synthetic drugs ज़्यादातर बना रहे हैं, और ये synthetic drugs are not just limited to South Asia. इनको जापान में पाया गया है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में पाया गया है. And the money that is churned out of this and other illicit activities like cybercrime, it gives them enough funding to sustain the conflict. And ये conflict जब तक sustain होएगा, and I don't think, I don't think even though elections म्यांमार में हो गए हैं, certain amount of legitimacy government को मिला है. Ethnic armed organizations जैसे चलते हैं काफी time, जो original agenda होता है उनका start होने का, which is civil rights, which is asking for human rights or asking for more federalism, democracy, ये चीजें काफी लोग भूल जाते हैं, and it becomes purely for the greed of it. And जब इतने पैसे बन रहे हैं, whether वो critical earth mineral sales में है to China, या तो it's in like I said, cybercrime or narcotics, weapons trade, conflict sustains. And I was in Myanmar during the elections. I was invited as an election observer. I went as an independent person from India, but I officially saw the processes of the elections and how things were going. One of the interesting things I noted is almost 70% of the constituencies जहाँ election नहीं हो पाया क्योंकि वहाँ conflict चल रहा था, वो across India's borders थे, not on any other borders. That means that sustained conflict across India's borders है. ये इसका repercussion obviously Indian borders में होएगा, and that repercussion will be felt in the most sensitive of the areas. अभी मणिपुर sensitive है क्योंकि मणिपुर में एक ethnic clash हो चुका है, and therefore वहाँ weapon supply ज़्यादा होएगा, transnational ethnic ties का support ज़्यादा होएगा. म्यांमार में इनको safe haven मिलेगा, जितने भी weapon wielding जो groups हैं उनको एक safe haven मिलेगा म्यांमार में. Therefore conflict म्यांमार में भी impact करता है और म्यांमार में sustain हो पाता है. However, what we must note is that मणिपुर एक अलग स्टेट है क्योंकि मणिपुर में ऐसा नहीं है कि खाली एक कम्युनिटी है या दो कम्युनिटीज हैं. मणिपुर में 3 कम्युनिटीज हैं, मेजॉरिटी कम्युनिटीज. नागाज हैं, मैतीज हैं, कुकीज हैं. एंड अब नागाज भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में जुड़ चुके हैं. 3-way कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा है, उसके ऊपर सब कम्युनिटीज का भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा है. और क्योंकि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ये कोई नई बात नहीं है, ऑफ कोर्स अनफॉर्चुनेटली ये जो कपल ऑफ इयर्स से चल रहा है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, ये बीच में उसके पहले हमने देखा था कि for at least a good 7-8 years there was peace in Manipur, and peace की वजह से डेवलपमेंट आ रहे थे, इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आ रहा था, एजुकेशन वाज गुड, एक पूरा एक जनरेशन था that had seen peace. मगर उसके पहले अगर आप देखे जाए, जैसे 80s में 90s में, आप देखेंगे कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स वो रैम्पेंट 9 साल तक कुकी नागास का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चला है और बहुत विशियस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चला है। तो ये क्योंकि पीस कम रहा है ऐसी स्टेट में और कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ज़्यादा रहा है, काफ़ी ग्रुप समझते हैं कि ये उनका हक है। तो नेशनल हाईवेज़ को कंट्रोल करना या नेशनल एसेट्स को कंट्रोल करना, अब कैसे कंट्रोल कर पाते हैं? क्योंकि इनके पास वेपन्स है, क्योंकि इनके पास कई हद तक एक लोकल सपोर्ट है। ऑफ कोर्स हर कम्युनिटी कहेगी कि वी फील अ डेंजर फ्रॉम द अदर कम्युनिटी, इसलिए हमारे पास वेपन्स है। मगर द फैक्ट ऑफ द मैटर इज इतने हद तक वेपन्स होना किसी भी स्टेट में किसी के भी साथ वो मिसयूज हो, मतलब देर इज नो अदर वे, मिसयूज तो होएगा ही वो। तो व्हाट वी आर सीइंग इन मणिपुर इज द, एंड आई कॉल इट द इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइजेशन of this sort of bad element, you know. So therefore Manipur एक sensitive area रहेगा and इसका solution has to come from the people. Nobody else can give them the solution.
जी, आपने कहा कि मणिपुर के बॉर्डर पर ये लोग जो इलेक्शन म्यांमार में जब इलेक्शन हुए थे वो लोग जो जीते, राइट? अनफॉर्चुनेटली मणिपुर म्यांमार बॉर्डर के ऊपर जमात, अगर हम देखें बांग्लादेश की साइड पे, तो वो भी जितने भी उनके जीतने वाले एरियाज हैं वो इंडिया बांग्लादेश बॉर्डर के पे ही जीते हैं, वो इनसाइड उनका नहीं। डू यू सी कोई कनेक्शन है यहाँ पे कि इंडिया के बॉर्डर्स पे ही ये सारे के सारे लोग जीत रहे हैं, चाहे वो जमात की बात हो या म्यांमार की साइड पे हो?
Look, I think it's by the virtue of geography. You know, पहले भी अगर आप देखो फॉर एग्जांपल म्यांमार के साइड में यहाँ ऑलवेज ग्रुप्स होते थे, ये कोई नई बात नहीं है। ये अगेन फोकस में आया है क्योंकि there was a coup in Myanmar, you know, तो उसके वजह से the EOs became reactivated again. अगर आप यहाँ देखिए, अगर आप बांग्लादेश में देखिए, यस, जमात का मतलब है रैडिकल फोर्सेस। कोई भी रैडिकल फोर्स कोई भी बॉर्डर में होना हमारे लिए नहीं मगर बांग्लादेश के लिए भी इट इज डेंजरस। जो भी गवर्नमेंट बांग्लादेश में आई है, चाहे बीएनपी हो और कोई भी गवर्नमेंट हो, आज नहीं तो कल, दिस इज समथिंग दे विल हैव टू वरी अबाउट एज वेल, क्योंकि रैडिकल फोर्सेस उनके ही बॉर्डर में can cause them a lot of problems. These are where the trade routes happen. This is where exchanges happen from. That's why हर बॉर्डर में, और ये तो मैं मणिपुर के बारे में भी बोल चुकी हूँ और नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न बॉर्डर्स के बारे में भी बोल चुकी हूँ कि हर बॉर्डर में मिक्स कम्युनिटीज होना, रोबस्ट ट्रेड होना, या यू नो यू हैव स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन्स, ये चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती हैं बिकॉज एक just a singular community to hold borders can be manipulated in times to come. So I think BNP ko bhi ek they should also look at Jamaat's control on the borders very very seriously. उनको भी देखना चाहिए कि how this can have a backlash on them and their own governance, that they are very keen for the governance to be very successful, because बहुत ही decades के बाद BNP वापस आई है बांग्लादेश में, so they would want to avoid Jamaat causing any trouble on the borders or being able to block the borders or being able to radicalize the borders or to have support bases on the borders.
See, what they do in their country becomes little secondary for me. My primary concern is कि हमारे border areas पे ही क्यों हो रहा है? और दूसरी बात ये, these organizations are being funded from majority of the time by adverse countries, not by the India friendly countries.
You cannot, when this is, I say this always, you cannot talk about your country until unless you talk about the neighborhood. The virtue of geography is hugely important because you'll never be able to change geography. And therefore, it becomes very important, even diplomatically, to talk to your neighbors, to, personally, civilian, social media, whatever that engagement is, as important as it is to raise certain concerns. Eventually, the fact of the matter is that the geography will never change. Therefore, engagement becomes really, really important. And it becomes really, really important to understand things from all directions, not just from your point of view, but multiple points of view. Therefore, it is very important to when we talk about funding and all, sure, funding comes to everybody. Funding comes from all sorts of places. Funding comes to all groups. And funding comes from various places. If you're not going to talk about the funding of, if you're not going to talk about another country, then we can't talk about Jamaat either. Then we should only talk about what funding is coming into our country, which luckily, because of the tightening of FCRA, the funding has become really tight. It's become really difficult to bring in money, really difficult for extremist religious organizations to have a free hand as it used to before. But then what do you do about funding coming to organizations in other countries? Therefore, it becomes very important to talk about the government in that country, because the only people who can limit any sort of radical funding coming to radicalization towards radical groups is the government of that country. So at this point, the only people who can bring in stringent laws, and this doesn't just go for Bangladesh, it would go for Myanmar as well, it would go for any country across the world, but in our interest, it would go for countries in our neighborhood. One must be very careful of the international monies that are coming in. And the only people who can block that is the government of that country. Therefore, it becomes imperative for the government of that country to realize that any sort of international support, any sort of international aid must be scrutinized thoroughly to see where it is going. So, for example, in Bangladesh, you look at the role of Turkey. When you talk about radicalization, one of the things that you can analyze as well is the role of Turkey. When you look at the kind of support that Turkey is, let's say, giving to the Rohingyas, where are the Rohingyas coming? Where are they settled? Where is the support coming from? The biggest, most important delegation to the Rohingyas was from Turkey, which was led by the Turkish Erdogan's wife, the foreign minister. There have been Turkish official organizations also, NGOs also, that have given money. They have pivoted the Rohingya issue on an international scale. And therefore, then you have to look at formal engagements like this also that can be translated into tacit support. Number 3, look at the role of Pakistan as well. It is now clear that ISI was creating something called an umbrella group called the Four Brotherhood Alliance, which included all the Rohingya groups. Now, these Rohingya groups, if you look at it historically, whether it's RIM, whether it's RSO, whether it's ARSA, were interfighting groups. This was not one group. They used to fight against each other. What has ISI managed to do? It's managed to bring these groups under one umbrella entity and train them. Where are they being trained? They're being trained in our neighborhood, in just across the border. So obviously radicalization to hoega hi apne borders mein. But who needs to stop this? The Bangladesh government needs to stop this. Why do they need to stop this? Not because they have great concern for us. Yes, they should be good neighbors, as Sheikh Hasina was good neighbors to us. Jo insurgency northeast mein hui thi, wo without Bangladesh clamping down during Sheikh Hasina's regime, we would not have been able to solve ourselves, because they would come in, attack, and go back to their safe havens, which was in Bangladesh. Those were the camps that were brought down. But what did it also do? It also impacted the local community in Bangladesh. It also radicalized that community. It also created terror hubs within their boundaries. It also gave the country a bad name. So Bangladesh government needs to be very sure that anything like this that they support or ignore will become a big problem for them. And it's not just about being good neighbors to us. It's about good governance and having long-term foresight for your own country. Any radicalized country will have law and order problems, will have economic problems, will have problems amongst their own countrymen in terms of minorities, and there'll be gender disparities, so on and so forth. So it will crack your society. We've also seen military to military engagement that Bangladesh has had with Pakistan, very high level military engagement. We've also seen Bangladesh use China in terms of inviting them, to their own country. So I would say, Jamaat aside, it now becomes BNP's responsibility to ensure that radicalization doesn't increase, to ensure that international interference doesn't become into something that they cannot manage. Surely they know the fallbacks of situations like this. I at least hope that they do.
So, how do you see the entire Bay of Bengal region now? What are the major forces at play? Andaman Nicobar, Bangladesh, Myanmar, this entire area. What is the game going on in this entire macro point of view?
Look, Gayatri, we have a habit, and we've had a habit even in scholarship. To scholarship हो, analysts हो, कुछ भी हो, एक हैबिट था कि हम नॉर्थ वेस्ट फ्रंटियर को ही फोकस करते थे बहुत सालों तक. उसमें बहुत हमारा एक्सपर्टीज था, मगर उसमें भी हमारे पास कंट्री एक्सपर्टीज होता था. द वर्ल्ड हैज चेंज्ड अ लॉट. अब हमें एक full whole sort of expertise की जरूरत है. You cannot just look at one country without looking at the other country. सब कुछ interconnected हो चुका है. And खाली जब only when you look at things in an interconnected way कि यहाँ क्या हो रहा है, और फिर वही उसने यहाँ क्या किया है, उसका यहाँ क्या investment है. When you start looking at it in a very micro level, will you realize the bigger picture? Therefore, to look at the Northeast by itself will be an injustice to the Northeast. You have to look at it in terms of Myanmar, China, Bangladesh, Bay of Bengal. And because of all of this, the northeastern frontier, not just the northeast region, but the northeastern frontier of India is going to become really, really important. We need a lot more scholarship on it. We need a lot more dedicated people looking at this area as a whole. We need expertise in this. And I think it's very important that we start studying this in a very serious way, because in years to come, this is going to become one of the most important areas in the world because of the geopolitical contestations, not just because India is a rising power, but because a lot of these regions have natural resources. अगर आप म्यांमार को देखो, critical earth minerals कितने हैं म्यांमार में? Already 90% of the critical earth minerals are being bought by China from Myanmar that go across the world. That is one of the reasons that Pax Silica sign हुआ था, क्योंकि after the tariff war, we noticed, and I've written an article on this, I think it came in Basis Point, wherein right after the US slapped tariffs on China, China withdrew the exports of critical earth minerals, citing national interests. कुछ भी cite कर दिया उन्होंने, but they refused to export. Now, who requires critical earth minerals the most? What is it used for? It's used for green transition goals. So आपके EVs में, solar power plants में, panels में, windmills में, all of this requires critical earth minerals. Critical earth minerals have great amount of environmental damage, क्योंकि जैसे माइनिंग होता है उनका, उसमें environmental damage होता है. तो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज तो अपना तो माइन नहीं करेंगी, वो कहीं और से ही लेंगी, तो वो चाइना से खरीदती थी. जब चाइना ने रोक दिया एक्सपोर्ट्स, they realized that they can be held to ransom as well. And that is when this loose agreement called the Pax Silica was created to de-risk supply chains across the world. So, critical earth minerals is going to become a major inflection point, major point for a flashpoint for multiple international interests. And I think in Myanmar, except the problem in Myanmar is how do they get it? चाइना के थ्रू तो नहीं आ पाएंगे, नॉर्थ ईस्ट के थ्रू नहीं आ पाएंगे, कहाँ से आएंगे? तो बे ऑफ बंगाल के थ्रू आएंगे. This seems to be something that could be a possibility. See, none of these things you can say for sure, but you can make a guesstimate, so as to say कि आप एक guess कर सकते हो किस area में ये move हो रहा है. Bay of Bengal is also very interesting because बांग्लादेश में interest है लोगों का. उसमें चाइना आ रही है. आपने सुना होगा कि लालमोहनीरहाट में they say that there's some drone
Surveillance and
manufacturing.
everything.
करेक्ट, ड्रोन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है, मगर बांग्लादेश से पूछो तो वो कहते हैं बस कमर्शियल ड्रोन्स है. मगर जो भी है, एक बार कैपेबिलिटी हो जाती है तो वो किसी भी चीज के लिए यूज हो सकता है. टर्की आप देखिए, टर्की कहता है कि there's been a long running negotiation between Bangladesh and Turkey on the Sipia air defense systems. तो फिर टर्की भी आ जाएगी. यूएस आपने देखा है कि बिफोर Sheikh Hasina's ouster, how much of interest the US showed in Bangladesh. The Bay of Bengal, like I said, undersea cables, Chinese influence, so these are all going to create a larger area. Remember one thing, there are lots of policies now. Turkey's own policy, maritime policy says, that we must look towards the east. They have a policy called the Asia New Policy. There are a lot of policies on paper that says that South Asia, Southeast Asia, Indo-Pacific is going to be where the next great game is going to be fought.
So it's going to be hot for quite some time. For good time, I would.
Therefore, for India, expertise is very, very important in these areas. I think while we remain fascinated with Northwestern frontier, as we should be, it's a very important frontier. We cannot do either or. All our borders are supremely important for us and they require equal amount of attention.
Right. Which is the biggest threat in this region for India?
I don't think you can say which is the biggest threat. I think the biggest threat will be ourselves. If we do not pay attention, if we have no scholarship, if, all the time our national security initiatives are positioned towards the Northwestern frontier, I think we will not be safeguarding ourselves. Though I'm happy to see that in the last 10 years, and I've been following this area for the last 25 years, there was a time that koi nahi humko puchta tha. And I'll say this frankly, nobody was interested in talking to somebody who was studying this area. Nobody was interested in studying this area themselves. We just had some sort of, it was Pakistan for us. And maybe, if you look at it, maybe that became a great strategy for people. Humko wahan occupied rakho. While, all the greatest moves are being made here. And remember, our borders are huge. 1,643 kilometers, with Myanmar, over 5,000 on the other side, our maritime borders, our land borders are huge. We've just seen, and, therefore, when people say, do you support this government or do you not? I say, everything's not about politics. Some things you look at purely from the terms of who benefits the country in terms of national security, and national security wise, I have to say that the present political dispensation has made moves that are faster than anybody else in securing the northeastern frontier. आप देखो अभी चिकन्स नेक में भी लैंड ट्रांसफर हुआ है, नेशनल हाईवेज ट्रांसफर हुए हैं सेक्टर को. चिकन्स नेक इतने सालों इग्नोर्ड क्यों था, इतने डेकेड्स इग्नोर्ड क्यों था? क्योंकि we didn't care about it, considering uska largest area, the largest area at its widest point, narrowest point is 22 kilometers. It's in a precarious position. We have to safeguard it. We have to have a show of strength there. Itna time kyun laga? West Bengal mein fencing, really on the mark fencing. Why did it take so long? Why did surveillance take so long? 1643 किलोमीटर्स हम फिजिकल फेंसिंग नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम मल्टीपल लेवल्स ऑफ फेंसिंग कर रहे हैं, जिसमें सर्वेलेंस भी होएगा, कई जगह फिजिकल फेंसिंग होएगा, कई जगह बायोमेट्रिक टेस्टिंग होएगा. ये सब क्यों टाइम लगा हमें, सो आई थिंक यहाँ एक ऐसा नहीं है कि एक कंट्री इज more dangerous to us than another country. I think our position should be कि what are we doing to safeguard, irrespective of who is there. क्योंकि अगर वो हम नहीं कर सकते ना, we are our biggest enemies.
राइट जी. थैंक यू सो मच रामी जी फॉर ज्वाइनिंग. जाने से पहले सभी व्यूअर्स से रिक्वेस्ट है, प्लीज डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक, सब्सक्राइब एंड शेयर द ऑल्टरनेट मीडिया. अगर आप मुझे कंट्रीब्यूट और सपोर्ट करना चाहते हैं तो दिए हुए नंबर और यूपीआई पे आप मुझे कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं. आप मुझसे जुड़ना चाहते हैं, इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर करना चाहते हैं तो सभी के सभी लिंक्स डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में. इसी के साथ जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, हर हर महादेव. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you guys.